Hey, good afternoon. It is Tuesday at 5 o'clock. That means we are together for happy hour. The day is over, and we're going to spend some time just enjoying a potent potable and talking about the Dungeons and or Dragons. My name is Rob, aka Lantern Noir, and I am joined by the amazing
Graybeard of Graybeard's Tavern.
How has your week been, my friend?
It's been a good gamey week. Lots of we had a great Grognard game. We are in our penultimate episode for that. I mean, not that that one's a streamed game, but yeah. So yeah, but that'll be Saturday. That's the finale this coming Saturday for that book of the game. It's we're playing Impulse Drive. And let's see, what else have we done? We did Monster Noir. We're halfway through that series. It's a 10 episode second season of that over on Indoor Adventures. So that's all kinds of good. And at some point we'll talk about what I picked up from the brick and mortar store today. So yeah. All around a good week. Oh, and me and the eldest house elf, we had a great over dramatic adventure with Faye. She's helping the Faye, and I got to play them all so basically I went Shakespearean theater kids, like over the top, and that's how everything was. We will be best friends, and stuff. So I had her cracking up and giggling, and so we had a good time with that.
Speaking of the oldest house elf, if I recall correctly, they had a Dungeons and Dragons club at school.
Yeah,
that was starting up. How did that pan out? Do we have positive things to report?
Yeah, so they're still organizing because there's like 30 or 40 kids this year. Last year it was like 8 kids, and it was just enough to like break into 2 groups. And then this year, I guess it's like 30 or 40 kids. So somebody must have been watching some Critical Role over the pandemic.
They were not watching Critical Role. They've been watching Indoor Adventurers and Lantern Noir Presents. Now, come on.
Right. That's right. They could.
No shade to Mr. Mercer, but there's some quality entertainment in these circles too.
Come get the real deal.
Which would be Mercer, but like if he's not streaming tonight.
Right.
Who was it? Was it Austin Powers did that for their campaign. If you only see one movie this summer, see the Star Wars one.
Yeah,
but if you see 2,
Austin Powers, gold member, whatever it was.
That was. Which nice. I mean, mad props. I mean, that's just owning. It's knowing your lane.
Right.
Is what that is. That is just knowing what your lane is and staying in it. Which I respect.
I love subversion of expectation too. So if you have that announcer with the if you're only going to see one movie this summer, the big swell of music and stuff, and then record scratch and
yep.
off the pavement, and
which is a sound effect the kids know what it means, right, but not where it comes from.
Yeah.
Like they know the record scratch means something has stopped suddenly, but they don't have the reference point as to why that sound means it has stopped suddenly, which is one of those, like, I feel a little bad because it's similar to the keyboard on your phone used to sound like an actual physical keyboard and or a typewriter, and now they're like, now it's just boop 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 because they know we want to hear something. But we don't necessarily want to hear keys,
right?
And again, because generation has no. I even was talking about with my students. I had a student many years ago had turned in a project on a floppy disk, and I don't even start the story with they turned it on a floppy disk. I say they turned it in on a thumb drive. Well, actually, it was a floppy disk, but think of it as a thumb drive.
Yeah,
because floppy disk is just a what?
My brother worked at a half the store was a movie rental place, and half the store was a tanning salon. And the younger woman he worked with in the tanning salon, he said, "Well, I'd have to fax that." And she said, "What's a fax?"
Oh.
And yeah, it was,
we all feel a little bit older, which
Yeah.
was one of my proposed topics for this week. Was just like, we've never done it. This is episode 35, I think we're on now. We've never just sat and gone, so here's what you notice as you get older as a Dungeons and Dragons player. Like these are just things to start to prepare yourself for. We have other topics. For me, this weekend, we wrapped up the Kickstarter. And I'm going to say I was not expecting the response I got. It was way more supportive than I had expected. We hit every single stretch goal I put on the Kickstarter. We hit.
Wow, nice.
The only one, thank you. The only one we did not get to is the one that I never actually made a graphic for to post, which was the official, like, guaranteed we will do cosplay streams. Now, that said, the cast is already, like, ordering their cosplay. They're already like getting it all together, and they're starting to do this. We're having conversations about how to do gray makeup because NLK is playing a half orc,
right?
Which when we talk DM tips will be a good one to talk about. How about the half races, because there's a lot of interesting stuff to be had in that conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a DM tip, maybe it's just an observation for how time goes on. But I wasn't expecting what blew my mind, and this is kind of like a little after action review on it all. I was expecting a lot of like Twitch subscribe cheer kind of support, because on Twitch here we cheers are a penny a cheer bit, penny a bit, and so when someone cheers 300 biddies, it's a nice it's very kind and generous $3 donation, give or take. So I was expecting the Kickstarter to kind of follow the same model. People would come in, they'd see I'm doing a Kickstarter, they'd throw $5 at it, and they'd go on.
Yeah.
I sold all of my gold tier. All of my gold tier backs got bought up. All of my episode sponsorships got bought up. Almost all of my silver tier got bought up. I had like 3 bronze tiers.
Wow.
And I wasn't ready for that. I didn't expect people to go. So what ended up happening is it was a very generous group. It was a smaller number of more generous backers as opposed to a large number of small backers, which kind of it flips the script from Patreon, because Patreon is built around the little bit every month, and this was more of a let's just give you a lot of money now. Which
they don't want to monkey with those microtransactions. They want to buy the whole game now.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it really was very much that, like, it was all at once. And it reminds me, too, we're going to have to, like, I'm already fleshing out the convergence, so it's probably going to run more than 10 sessions, because I don't want to, in 3 months, turn around and say, and there's another pledge drive going on.
All right,
But that one doesn't have to be as high, because a lot of the things where we're buying with the funds are going to have permanency. We're not going to necessarily need to redo everybody's character art. We're not going to need a new theme song. I don't know if I'm going to hire a cartographer or not. I keep musing on it because I don't like making maps. Like, I really don't like making maps.
Well, there's a lot of them out there in the community, and so if you're looking for someone, I can point you on a path or two.
Well, and that gets down to our DM tips, because I'm not sure. I'm thinking about how I want to handle that prepping, so I kind of want to riff with you a bit on how I'm going to do that. We did not have Curse of Strahd this week because the gentleman who plays Dagon is still in the process of moving. So I had a freakishly successful game of XCOM 2 where we were using chat members as the operatives.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah. And then we did session 0 last week too, which was for the convergence. We got everyone together since there was only a week left in the Kickstarter. I said, hey, let's use this week to get everyone together on stream and brainstorm our characters at least. We didn't do any D&D Beyond work. We didn't do any like firm writing, but we just did a lot of kicking ideas around. The musician who's writing the theme song came on.
Yeah.
and kind of picked our brains with questions and stuff. So she's going off and writing this amazing, hopefully, theme song. We did agree that Magnum Pi is a good, that's a good theme song.
I know you said that. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's the classic stuff.
The thing that's really weird about that is when the couple times you've said that, I've heard the A-Team theme in my head. I've actually had to go and watch the Magnum Pi one just to get it, to get a different rhythm in my skull,
A-Team is not bad.
No.
And that's coming, though, that was our go-to song in marching band that the trumpets and trombones had figured out on their own. There were 2 pieces we played without permission.
Right.
If we got bored enough, we would routinely launch into the A-Team theme and the Superman theme.
Nice.
And I thought the A-Team theme was some of the most fun to belt out with the trumpets during just random downtimes, because it's what everyone, kids of the 80s all know it.
Right.
And it's a fun one. But no, so the characters are up and going, and we've done a lot of backstory talk already, and they're really embracing the whole post-apocalyptic, semi-modern but not narrative.
Yeah.
From a D&D point of view, we have one firm request from the players to not have a lot of guns, which I like.
Yeah.
Because I don't want a lot of guns either, and it fits the way I've kind of fashioned the world. And I've got a few things I'm tweaking with them to get them in there. So that was my week. It's been and I'm working a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, am I working so much? I'm grading so many papers.
Can imagine. I had really hoped that the school, and I'm coming from the parent point of view, that the school would still have everything be electronic. There's papers flying left, right, and sideways, and it would be so great if it was all bloop, all in a way that you could just, here's the answers, click, multiple choice, and the machine grades papers.
Not to get too deep into educational theory. I'm actually having a fight with one of my classes because by the way, intern, welcome aboard. They are fighting against everything being on Chromebooks. They want a handout of a sheet to write their notes on, and they want a worksheet to write their work on, and they don't want write it on paper and match it back again because that's too much work. And they're seniors, and it's like I'm balancing the professors are not going to coddle you this way, folks. Many of the professors might not even do things like give you anything. They might walk in and start writing on the board, and woe be you who don't keep up with them. So I'm really kind of torn.
Your papers will be turned in nothing but blue notebooks. And you're like, what's a blue notebook?
Yes, the good old blue books. I had a professor who used to have to collect them the week before a test.
Yeah.
He would collect them, and then he would confirm they were acceptable and pass them back the day of the test so that you did not use your blue book to sneak in answers. So that was a lot of fun, let me tell you. So, okay, you've got some news to talk about. You're itching. Start talking.
So I went to my local brick and mortar.
Yay!
And they, I love you guys. Love Josh and Josh. There's a couple of Joshes. And I got my
bum bum bum
Wild Beyond the Witchlight alternative, only available at stores cover. I have not cracked it, other than Big Josh, Tall Josh, I should say, cracked it open and made me look at one piece of art, which I hope isn't some kind of weird spoiler, but he's a frog knight. He's like the Toad from the old Bugs Bunny cartoons. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. So he's that frog, but as a knight. like full plate armor and everything. And I'm always like, oh my God, and now, as we were discussing, I'm still on the fence whether I'm going to play in it or not. So I can't crack it open, but I'm going to crack it enough to talk about it next week.
So here's my completely unsolicited advice on that front. Do you think there's any chance you will run it?
Run it?
Yeah.
No. Nope.
Oh, well then, yeah, just stick it on your shelf.
Yeah, I don't think I will run it. Not for some time. There's no way. It would be, because I would run it with the grognards, and I would have to go. There's like 6 other modules that have come out that they would choose to play before they would play this. This would be like, do we have to? Yeah.
It sounds a little new agey.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Are there any actual dungeons or dragons in it?
Yeah, I love them dearly, but I really don't think that they're ready for the custard pie fight and the roller coaster rides and the you can solve everything in this module without combat.
Which gets us into some of the D&D stuff I was musing on because here was my genesis of thought that led to I kind of want to riff on D&D and DMing for the week.
Right.
Okay. So some background. In one of the Candlekeep adventures, you find yourself, because I was thinking about running a Candlekeep adventure as a one-shot on an upcoming Saturday.
Right.
I thought, okay, this could be kind of fun. I'll put the date out there. I'll start bringing in some people. I know a few people that have been really itching to get back to the table, and I'll see if I can make it work for them. And I said, okay. So I was thinking about this particular adventure, and it's one of those where everything is statted. So there's a whole like cabal in this city going on, and you could, in theory, peel off individual members of the cabal and pick them off one at a time. and they're statted, and they're not horrible fights for second level, but they're not trivial fights. But the catch is, if you don't do that, you find yourself at some point later where if you choose violence, you're choosing like an almost guaranteed party wipe, which then got me thinking, how do you plan when you're running a game? How do you plan out your combat? Do you do I'm going to stat everybody, and if you pick a fight with all of them at once, yeah, the game's probably going to end with all of your characters dead. Or do you plan it all out with, okay, if the fight happens here, here's how this fight is an interesting, fair fight, a balanced fight. If it happens here, here's how that fight is an interesting, balanced fight. If it happens there, even though the number of NPCs might, because that's what I'm thinking is, do I change? Well, what do you think?
All right.
Let's kick it to you first.
So, I am a proponent of the wave theory. Like, if a fight is too easy, the bugbear guards from the next room will jump in. Like if it's round 3 and they've just done the long rest and they decide to, Alpha Strike, call in orbital bombardment and, just shred the enemies. I will a lot of times, like I said, I a proponent of the wave theory where I'll be like, okay, yeah, like 4 bugbears come in from the guard room down the hall, or if a fight is going too badly, I will pull some punches in the way that I will either get it to a point where the bad guy can retreat for X reason if I can't come up with something logical, like, oh, this is his lair and stuff. I always try not to fudge dice, but I try to keep the story going. So it is a crazy balance, and location. I will I will like, okay, like in your example, I would either make something happen, like, you know, the building collapses or something happens to cut the combat in two. You know, oh, the ground quakes and a chasm opens. Do you wish to jump the chasm and fight them all alone? You know, the fighter or whatever. Oh, I got 17 strength. I can jump this chasm, but nobody else is going to be able to get across this chasm. Do you want to do that alone? Or I'll give them options like I've said before, a lot of times I will either be someone with intelligence or someone with wisdom. I'll either send them a note or I will say, you know, Dante, you know, you cannot win this fight.
Yes.
You know, and then leave it to them to role play it out. Like, come on, you know, Rastalin, we can't. Their magic is too strong at this time. You know, and give them the opportunity to role play it and get themselves extricated. Yeah, get their butts out of the fire.
Expeditious retreat.
Exactly. Boop, boop, boop. I like to use that spell actually in reverse and call it Expeditious Charge. So when your wizard wants to get somewhere fast.
Oh, I never, you know, I honestly, like, I don't think I've ever slotted that spell for anything because I'm like, if things are going downhill, I don't need extra movement. And B, I'm probably spending those spell slots on something more like life-saving than run.
Blasty or shieldy.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I like to use it on the on forward momentum sometimes. But I play pretty non-traditional characters, so you know.
That works.
Yeah, so I would probably either mod the terrain or mod the mobs, where, you know, the leader goes, go and get the bugbears, and so like half the minions run to go get the bugbears, and you know, or
the other half is like, okay, we'll keep fighting. Meanwhile, the party's like, wait a minute, wait, there's bugbears coming.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah, or the deep gong sounds as you see the kobold slave strike the gong several times, you know. It could only be a bad thing. Or foreshadowing. Well. Yeah, the swirling as a matter of fact, I remember one was the swirling mass of the pool begins to bubble. And the party, this was one of the ones with the kids playing, and they're like, oh, wait. The pool in the middle becomes clear as if it's a gateway. Maybe we, you know,
maybe we should get out of here. Maybe this is a bad time to be here. This is just not what we want to be doing right now. Can we please?
Yep.
That makes sense. So you're more of the static, keep it, and if the players look overwhelmed, do other environmental changes.
Yeah.
That's legit. I was thinking on it. I really like having the whole encounter prepped. So like, I know in this moment this should be a relatively fair fight going in. Which I keep thinking though sometimes creates those moments where it's like, this was a fair fight until they spent the 45 minutes tailing him back to the gambling den, where now it's not possibly a fair fight, and I couldn't get them to bite when it would have been a fair fight.
Yeah.
I also bumped into this last time we played Valley of Plenty. They had a couple of combat encounters, and they ran off into the ruins. They got through a combat encounter, and they went, okay, we're going to take a long rest. And I'm like, there's one more room to get through.
Right.
No, go on. Like, no, you're not taking a long rest. Keep going. But as a DM, I didn't feel right saying, no, you have to keep going.
Right.
You can't take a long rest here. And I really hate the DM's nudging you away from a long rest and you took it anyways. Well, then I'll just interrupt your long rest. Because that feels so dirty to do.
Oh yeah. Which is so funny to hear now, because I mean, hate to say it, but back in the day, it was you rolled for random encounters every so many X, every hour, every 10 turns, every other turn in some crazy modules, like every 10 minutes I roll. If I get a 1, 2, or 3 or whatever, then I roll on the wandering monster chart. And so it was just, boing. they appear out of the darkness, boing, carrying crawlers.
And that's the good news is thanks to D&D Beyond, who is sadly not a sponsor of our show. I just went and took the difficulty of the encounter and went a few steps, and went, okay, so it was originally a hard encounter for a tired party. Now it's a slightly deadly encounter for a freshly rested one. And I take some. Okay, let's play a guessing game. They're second level.
Mm-hmm.
They've encountered a Drider.
Okay.
The Drider is constantly moving on her web while she fights with her swords.
Okay.
So much that they have disadvantage on their attacks unless they can get her to trip up in her movements.
Right.
And then they get their full attack. They can attack normally. If someone has done that before, she can get herself back up comfortably on the web.
Mm.
What monster did I reskin into a Drider?
Oh.
That's a CR2.
Okay.
Because second level, I thought we'd start with the CR2 single monster.
Was it just a wolf spider?
No.
The giant. Yeah, I was thinking the giant wolf spider.
Actually, it wasn't a spider of any kind.
Oh.
It was something else that has disadvantage. You get disadvantage when you're attacking it unless you can trip it up by hitting it once. And then until its next action, you can attack it normally. But somebody has to hit it to get it to lose it.
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I took a Displacer Beast.
Nice.
I was like, that's how I roll with monsters. I very rarely run I rarely make up a monster stat. I just like look for something with the right CR, and then I just reskin it.
Yeah. I really like the fact that you that you use the CR and then reskin it that way. Where a lot of times I will look for something I want, like this past week I needed 4 dragonborn, 4 black dragonborn. I needed stats for them, but there are no like stats for just halflings or just elves anymore. You have to find a scout or a thing or whatever. So I just took warriors. I just took warriors and went, okay, these warrior stats are now these 4 warriors are, skinned in the black dragonborn, and they all have lanterns and they're coming through the Feyglade. And thanks to D&D Beyond, non-sponsored, I just was able to make an encounter, put 4 warriors in, and start going. The resources that are out there are just so viable at this point. Like you're saying, you want to write the encounter, and you want to stat the encounter, and you want to have it ready to go, and that's awesome because you can. And it's so much more important in a streamed game than a home game. Because the one thing you don't want in a streamed game is, all right, hold on a second, I'm going to build the encounter. Even if it's, less than a minute to build the encounter, a minute in a streamed game is forever.
Yeah, well, I've learned over the months, if I have to do a radical change of plan midstream, literally, I will multitask. I will try to get the players debating something. I will sometimes I'll use the potty break I'll use the potty break if I have to, but I'm not usually I don't usually like going to the potty break as the I need a minute to reconnoiter. I would much rather do stuff on the fly. And thankfully, what's nice is that what I use for my initiative tracker has a D&D Beyond scraper attached to it.
Oh, that's right.
So you can, like, with a touch of a button, it pulls all the stats out and drops them. And the only thing that gets showed on stream is the picture and the name of the critter.
That's
like all the flavor text, all the stats, those are all hidden. So like I don't even need to go in and edit that stuff. I just have to remember, oh yeah, when the Drider attacks, it's not the tentacle claw of the Displacer Beast, it's her sword. But it's still about the same kind of damage. It's still kind of the same attack. Like it feels perfectly balanced. And I can get away with it. But I think that's like as far as DM tips goes. And by the way, Adam, welcome aboard and don't feel sorry. Actually, I hate to say this, we had a lot of fun. We had a really good stream playing XCOM 2, and I'm like remembering how much I like XCOM and really missing the chance to get in there and play it. So, Valley Zeon, welcome aboard as well. We're talking about some DM tips. And the big one, I think we've kind of segued out of the planning the encounters and into a little bit of creating the monsters you want. I'd say that my last thought on the encounter front still is I still struggle like crazy with the everything is statted, good luck.
Right.
But that's like, I was even, while you were thinking, things like if you're in a city, you've got the town guard are a great way to stop an encounter that you know the players can't win. Yep. Or I know there are some that would say, you just have to teach your players to learn when to run. Yeah. And if you got to kill every last player, every last character, not player, don't kill the players. If you have to kill every last character to teach them the better part of valor, so be it.
Yeah. It doesn't fly these days. You will have people not come back to your table. That's the thing. And also too, there's always the soft option of that of, well, you were all down to 0 hit points. You were and I know people hate this, but you were captured. Or, they were about to coup de grace you when the city guard approached. The twirl of the cape and the bad guys ran off, leaving you barely alive.
I'm far more likely, especially if it's a city-based encounter, you're not captured. You're just all piled in a heap in an alley somewhere without your weapons or your armor or your money. What's your plan?
Tossed in the garbage. Oof.
It's at least you're not trying to break out of prison.
Right. Or you're now in the Thieves Guild mega dungeon of the sewer, and you are their prisoners. Each of you will fight another one of you until there is but one left. PUBG rules to get out of the Thieves Guild.
We'll give you your weapons back after we are impressed with your skills. But yeah, and then that segues, as we were saying, into the idea of don't be afraid. And this, I think, the biggest tip I've learned in the last year. Don't be afraid just to find stats you like and slap the graphic on it you want. Not only do you wake up in the inn without any of your gear, you owe 3 days pay for the rooms.
Yep.
Although that said, you have to be careful with some groups, because I've had some groups like I know how they would turn to raise their money, and that is not role playing I want to do. Like, there's a certain point where I'm like, okay, okay, I guess roll. I guess we're gonna need a charisma check, and then we're gonna need a con save.
Right. No.
Okay, it sounds like you're off to the temple for a cure disease.
Good luck with all of your future endeavors.
But those are good strategies if they get over their heads. For monsters though, like I keep thinking how often I've just looked and said, well, this one will work, and I'm just gonna drop it in there. I've done that too with like I have at present in Curse of Strahd, there's an assassin tracking the party. And I don't remember where I found it. I found it somewhere in in the database. I went, oh, this is a rogue, and they're at this level. And if I throw in a couple of supporting characters to help them, in particular, to ensure there's somebody in melee so that they can hit their sneak attack button. And that one was deliciously fun. Like, oh yeah, all right, she's gonna hit you, and okay, so her sword does a base 8 damage. Well, I can take that. Now, since you're also engaged with the other guy, we're gonna roll the sneak attack damage, and said party member is currently in chat. Like, did not like. Yeah,
and that's 3d6, but they're a phantom rogue, so they invoke their necrotic attack, and that's another
yeah, something like that. Well, and I keep, Molly's been playing a rogue in the Candlekeep group, and I've never really appreciated how much they beefed rogues for 5th edition. And just, that sneak attack damage can be nasty. Plus, I had a game in Solasta where Ember, my rogue, because I based them off the Candlekeep group, at like 8th level, had a critical.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of dice hit the table. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
It was I guest starred in Rime of the Frost Maiden over on Indoor Adventures channel there. And that's where I was a halfling phantom rogue. And I would pop up out of hiding, and I used a sling, and it was like, I kept joking, all right, I fire my Barrett 50 caliber sling at them, because it would be, it's a D4 plus 5 for my 20 dex, plus 3d6 for sneak attack, plus the 2d6 or so for my necrotic damage for being such a level of so it got rude fast.
Well, and we've got, wake up in the land of death, you have one chance to escape. Yep. I also don't mind even evoking the, you all wake up and you're on the bank of a river. You have to convince the boatman to steer you back to the mortal realm. Have fun. There you go. However you want to handle this. You can best him in combat. You can outsmart him. You can challenge him to something else. You could swim. I mean, there's a good collection of options. But those are all ways to kind of avoid that way. We're bumping into something a little bit. You're not a bard. You can't do that. Settle down. Stay in your lane. And that does get into one of the other challenges as DMs. I don't know if I think we've touched on this before on the podcast, but it's never a bad topic to go back to, which is that moment when that's taking your life in your own hands. We must pause for this. I challenged the boatman to a children's card game. Now, see that? I don't know. Well, here's the problem with any kind of children's game. They are usually 100% random. Because children's games are designed to teach kids skills like taking their turn and following a rule set. Yeah. Do you Uno? But so challenging Sharon to a game of Candyland to determine your soul pretty much means you're going to shuffle a deck of color cards, and that deck of color cards will decide if you live or die.
Right.
Which might give you better odds than if you challenge them to a game of chess.
Right. Yes. Yeah. With your, 2 wisdom and your 8 wisdom and your 6 intelligence, it may not be best to play chess.
I took the soldier background. I expect to roll with advantage. I'm just saying.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Or the superior magic. Yep. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so here's how I see that scenario playing out. You take out your little red-white deck, and he takes out his little blue-black deck, and then the first turn he drops 3 black lotuses, and you go, what? I have all the finances in the world.
Right.
A lot of people pay me for transport, and I don't spend it on much else.
There's not much else to do here on the river Styx. um, Open a lot of packs at night. Yeah. So yeah, those again, the way to get them on another path, or like we've said before too, the fact that D&D is modular, and I know me and you have had a good discussion on this before, but okay, they're supposed to meet whoever. There's a fork in the road. Whichever fork they take, they're gonna meet whoever, you know.
It kind of goes without saying. And that's I mean that's part of like one of the narrative conceits, I think, in a lot of games. And I feel like this is one of those weird things I've seen over the more of my younger years as a DM are the lamentations of a dungeon master who says, well, I really wanted to run this one game, but they never went down the road to meet so-and-so. And according to the map, so-and-so lived here, and they kept going over there. And they were like hidebound that the NPC could never move. They had to go to that location, sometimes because it was tied with other things in the area.
Yep.
And so that's like I appreciate people who do their big, heavy campaign maps. And I'm bumping into that with the convergence. I'm already like, okay, so Port Huron, Michigan, that's completely been converged into this.
Yeah.
Detroit has been completely converged into this. Nobody goes near where Lansing was. Nobody talks about Lansing. Like, that's just a conceit. I'm not sure how hard I want to play that, or if even at one point I want to send the party to Lansing.
Yeah.
But we don't go to Lansing.
Right.
Well, but you need to go there. But no one goes to Lansing. Like, no one knows what happened to Lansing. We believe there was a convergence event, but no one knows about it.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing about a pre-modern game, if no one comes back to report on what's at a location,
right,
you don't know what's at the location. Like someone has to bring word back.
The old maps, here be monsters, because anyone who's gone there has not come back.
Exactly. How do you handle a map of eldritch geometry? Notes of which doors go where under which circumstances? Probably. Honestly, go ahead.
Well, I was reading the one above it: halfling, diviner, wizard with the lucky feet, and gambler background. Yeah, playing against the boatman. Yeah.
I would say for things like that, I'm a big fan of the doors go where they have to go for plot.
Yeah.
Because I don't like getting trapped into my maps. Yep. I would much prefer, like, I want to limit my maps, especially when the convergence starts up and I really have to create all my own content for it again, which I haven't had to do in a while.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I have been gloriously lazy for the last 6 months between Curse of Strahd, which is more or less pre-written for me, Candlekeep, which has been pre-written for me, and then I've been able to recycle some of my older stuff that I wrote back in late 2020.
Yeah.
I haven't had to stop writing anything new in a while. and
we've talked how I sandbox. I sandbox almost everything. If I make a map or I make notes about a place, it is a location. You know, it's not part of the linear story. It's generally, oh, you can go there. Or what I'll do with players is, so next time, here are your 3 choices of contracts or leads. Which one are you going after? And then, again, with a streamed game, it's different. But in a home game, you can just give them the 3 choices. Are you going to search this? Are you going over here? Or are you going to go to, the bar? And then they get to pick. And so the next time I can start thinking about what's going to happen when they go there. For maps, a lot of times I on the fly will type in to Google, space bar, bloop. My favorite one so far was space whale name generator. and there was a whale name generator, not space whale, but whale name generator online, and I was able to randomly generate a name for a whale.
Okay, I feel like there's some context missing. Could you refresh us as to why you needed to generate a whale name?
Okay, so in my homebrew, basically like 40K type universe, my sci-fi universe, there is a race of people who were basically descended from beluga whales. And so they're really massive, but like really friendly, and they've got like psychic powers and stuff. And so I need whale names, you know, because I want to keep that kind of theme. And so again, typed in whale name generator. I was able to generate whale names for the beluga whale people that they ran into. Shamoon. Yeah, see, you've got it. You should have been there in the game.
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
I know for me, I'm going to need to plan a little bit ahead of that, because I part of the Kickstarter had quality battle maps. So I'm going to have to start making some maps of possible locations. The good news is I don't have to lock all the locations in. So I can have a some kind of bar. I can have a couple of different bars on standby. I can have a couple of different campsites on standby. I can have a couple of classic trails on standby.
Temple, depending on what, you know, you're going to run into a church or a temple or somewhere sacred.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that's when I can go over to Fiverr and throw it out there, and in a couple of days, hopefully get all the maps I need. So those guys have really good turnaround. Custom character art is a lot harder to get quickly.
Right.
I have a bit of a frustration. I'm hoping it works out, but there was an artist, I like their work. I like their price point. I said, I need 6 characters. And they went, oh man, 6 characters. It's going to take me 6 weeks. And my next thought was, well, I could have had all of my players come to you, and if they had all submitted their characters, you probably wouldn't be quoting all of us 6 weeks. You'd probably say, I'm currently all backlogged. Can I do it in 3?
Yeah.
So let's make this work. And we negotiated down a deadline date. And I said, they quoted me a price. And I said, all right, I'm going to pay you 20% more than that. There we go. Like, I'm not going to haggle the price. I'm going to kick it up a step.
Yeah.
And that way we're all on the same page. So I recognize that we negotiated your time frame. And our day came and our day went. And I got a note saying, I got really backed up. I'm sorry.
Right.
And now I'm like, well, for crying out loud. Which
we tried.
I'm hoping. The best part about canceling Curse of Strahd this week, it's an extra week for the artist to actually get all of the characters done and get it in there so we can actually show them on stream before they immediately go off to the merch store. Because I'm really looking forward to my Dagon and Irina water bottle.
Nice.
I am really looking forward to putting Irina and Arabelle on like something. Yeah. Maybe even a t-shirt because I like the characters and I like the way they did the artwork. You did migraines.its, and that is what made a link. Okay, so anyway, Temple of Migraines. It's filled with wheat that causes headaches. That's legit. That's legit. We do have a question, which we will get to, because I don't have the answer. So we will have to look into that in just a second after we're going to talk a little more DM stuff, and then we'll take that question, because it's not quite on the DM stuff. But I have a question to put over here to my partner in crime here with our, a couple of decades of experience. And that's the power creep of characters. So as a case in point, one of my players in one of the games, I think entirely accidentally, made a completely optimized ranger.
Right.
And I believe that they are intentionally, did not mean to like min-max this sucker, but it's rough. They're out DPSing our wizard.
Right. Ouch.
So it gets to the like, strategies for having that conversation and potential fixes. Because the last thing you do is ramp all the monsters up, because you don't want the player who didn't min-max to go, oh crap.
Yeah. Poke. I'm doing my part. Poke. And meanwhile, the next guy over is, coming in with, Stormbringer and
But what's more of your fix? Are you the we're gonna house rule a little bit, so you take access? No, I don't. Okay, now to be fair, I do think there's a certain amount of I didn't think these abilities would end up as crazy good as they did.
Right.
And that's one fix, by the way, that Miracle Girl suggests is like, okay, just go back and have a conversation and have less things stack.
So how I have done that, particularly in 5th edition, because I was not ready. Even though I had been on a playtest team, I was still not ready for some of the final rulings and stuff. And it's the classic rooted in a level system. Fighters do the same large amount of damage all day, every day. That's their shtick, is damage output at a level. It's a plateau for them kind of thing, with the occasional crit spike. Where wizards, it's cool looking and it's boom, big lump, and then very little, the rest of the time. Their plateau is low and their spikes are huge and fabulous and have extra stuff to it. What I like to do is I like to try to shift the spotlight or set situations so that each character can shine at what they do. If it is, I've been at these tables in 5th edition and other editions, if it's a race to I can do more damage, if it really becomes a thing at the table, I will do the math. Particularly in 5th edition, it's having that conversation of, yes, you're doing X amount of damage, but Bill is doing just as much healing, if not more, because you keep getting your butt whooped. Bill's keeping you alive. You would never do that much damage without Bill, Happy Bill the cleric, putting them hit points back in. So it's all about building a team and putting the parts of the team together and making them feel like everybody's doing something. Like, for instance, if you got the ranger and he's just blasting away, I'll have, if an NPC goes down or whatever, that's the moment I'll give the other character a second to shine. Like, Pavel is down. What shall you do? You are standing next to Pavel. And, I pull Pavel away or I give him a healing. And you're like, you saved Pavel. The ranger did 100 points of damage against the roper. Fine. That's the ranger's job. You saved a character. It's just shining the spotlight when and where you can on people, because if you're playing with a group that's all about the numbers, then you gotta segregate them and just make that a separate conversation away from the table. At least that's how I do it. What's going on over there?
Well, we're discussing the possibility that this what build for this ranger might be, and that's a good fix. Is that idea of sharing the love, keeping everyone like having their moments to do what they're going to do. I think personally, and I would have this conversation if the campaign weren't winding down for this current story arc, and then we'll talk about it on the back end of it, which is do you want to respec if we shift gears and no longer let these abilities stack? like it, knowing it's not going to stack. And welcome, Game Masters Vault. We're glad to have you here live today for this podcast. Knowing that we're doing that, do you want to respec and take a different feat or ability at this level? Because if you got it just for the stack, it's looking like we shouldn't be doing that. Now, the twist to that, I also kind of feel like there's a value in knowing how to work a spreadsheet.
Right.
And going down the line and going, okay, well, I jotted down your damage totals. This is what I'm noticing is your damage per round on average.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of high.
Yeah, but you guys, that's where it gets weird to me, because you've agreed to play this game. Because like when we first started playing 5th Ed, everybody was like, what in the hell? The fighters were just boom every round, and I had the 2 attacks, and I would crossbow, and I've got crossbow expert, so I can fire my crossbow constantly. And you know, it was just like overwhelming to them. And I'm like, yeah, but the hit points on all the monsters are like twice what you think they are, you know?
Yes. Although my concern isn't so much your number is high. I would want to see it compared to everyone else's. Because I tend to think if everyone's playing a DPS, if everyone's in combat, everyone who's focusing on attacking rather than defending should be about the same-ish on average damage per round.
Yeah.
You know, with some, of course, occasional spikes or crits.
Or damage per round or damage per combat. Because like
good point.
The druid throws out the blight spell and does 81 points of damage in a round, but the rest of the time she's hucking her, you know, her D8 fire produce flame, you know, compared to Agar the Barbarian with Stormbringer, and he's, you know, D12 plus 6 every round.
Who needs numbers when you have 90 feet of dark vision observer feet to read lips and comprehend language? Universal floating subtitles if you add in a minor illusion. I dig that solution to those problems. I will have to remind my players that have like the minor illusion cantrip, they can totally do that.
Yeah.
That would be really funny.
I had a character who was like the Joker and Batman mixed together, and he used to just wear a blank porcelain mask, and he would minor illusion every round something different on the mask, like faces and things, or funky designs. And yeah, minor illusion is it's a work of art.
That's the way to go. But I do think, and I think for me at least, seeing the damage per combat or the damage per round average would be very compelling. Like like if someone tells me something is broken, I would want to see those numbers for myself to go, okay, it feels broken because 3 times in the combat round, this person did 45 points of damage in a shot using an ability.
Right.
Really, how does that stack, though, compared to the druid who dropped Blight and then produced Flame for the rest of the fight? We total it all up and we average it out, and we're like, well, they're actually about the same.
Well, and I, talking along those lines from doing the math, as we've gone along over the past 6 or 7 years since 5e came out, because in the initial 5e came out, fighters, no matter which style you used and stuff, you were all within 1 or 2 points of each other of doing the same amount of damage every round. It really, the math was, if you're a great weapon guy, if you're a two-handed guy, if you're sword and board guy, it was close, within a few points of each other. And then as we've added abilities and classes and had class A with class B, oh, you're a warlock paladin. Oh, you're stealing those warlock spells so that you can use them for extra smites and all that kind of stuff. It really, because it's a bound system, they made it that way so that it's not ridiculous, and you suddenly, oh, I've got my +30 hammer, and I've got my my repeating magic missile thrower, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, it numbers wise, at first it was really close to where people didn't feel that way, but as people have optimized, it can feel very broken.
Yeah.
And I just think it's more of a talking to people and acceptance of that than trying to, I mean, everybody's game is their game, then try to bend it to make other people feel better. I think I would rather talk to them and go, well, what is really your job? You know?
Oh no, and that's fair. And that's, I think, that acknowledgement where, unlike an MMO where they are constantly mining data to make sure that things are like, there's no, like the Warcraft and everybody else is always mining the data to see if they have had an optimum build really percolate out. And a lot of their nerfs and buffs are built around the idea of, we don't want everyone to go online and take the same talents and the same feats and have the same weapon. Like, you think they would on some level, but at the same time, they don't want the game to be so swingy that if you don't take this talent, you're more than a couple of percentage points lower on the scale. And there's no way Dungeons and Dragons can possibly do the investment that those companies can do. So they have to kind of do their best, do some good internal play testing, and then go, okay, well, it's out there in the wild, and if it breaks at your table, it's the DM's job to go, hey, well, I know I said you could take those 2 levels of barbarian.
Right.
But
can we maybe not, or talk them into doing something else if it's just not feeling right? Or I guess as a DM, I would never go back and try to change that. I would talk to players and see if the other players are having an issue with it. I think if I was like, oh, they're just kicking the crap out of my monsters, I would just mod my monsters. Well,
the monsters are there to die.
Right. Well,
that's the whole, they're cast exclusively to be killed.
Well, and that's part of the thing too, where when you sandbox like I do, they're like, oh, okay, they are gonna go to the rock's nest. They are not high enough level for the rock. The rock was hit by lightning a few days ago, and it's only got half the hit points it normally does. And so like I would change the encounter to be feasible for them.
No.
Oh, I see.
Here's what you do. You have put hours into this rock encounter. You've got the entrance. You've planned it all out. You found this graphic you're going to throw up. You found the right music for it. No. You don't do that. What you do is when the party approaches the rock nest, they begin hearing how the rock hasn't been sighted in a week.
Right.
And then as they examine further, they start to see a black shape circling the mountain because a green dragon has moved in temporarily. And then they say, oh, okay, well, we'll fight a dragon instead. And then you go, oh, no, you were able, while doing this other adventure, you catch sight of the dragon next to a cow and realize it is an adult green dragon that is currently like chilling at the rock nest. And then maybe they give up. And then a couple weeks later, you pitch in the rumor that there's a green dragon sighted somewhere else in the world. Right. And they can go, oh, I wonder if the rock came back. Boom. Now they're the right level for your rock encounter.
Now they're ready.
That's right. unless you have a party of fools that goes, well, we're still going to go kill the green dragon. We came here to kill something. And then you're like, okay.
Back to the earlier situation.
The Rock and the Dragon are a couple that will tag team the party. Ooh, ick. All righty. That works. I just
high five.
I'm still wrapping my head around the fact. First, we have this the portable whole bag of holding combo. That's just mean. So many good engineering problems are solved in Dungeons and Dragons. I still can't believe, and this is like the truth. I've got a dragon planned for tomorrow night with second level characters. There aren't a lot of good CR2 dragons, by the way. But this is the first dragon I will have had in a stream game since I started streaming D&D last November.
Right.
I have avoided all dragons in my Dungeons and Dragons games.
So I've been playing a lot of like one-page dungeons and that I've just been snagging off the internet with the eldest house elf. And in the middle of this dungeon, there's a black dragon. And I made it so that I said, okay, as a black dragon, there's no way a single character can take on a dragon, even if the CR calculator says that this is a thing. So what I did was I had her in a tower, and the dragon had to cling on to the tower to fight with her. And so it couldn't use its tail, its wings, its claws. It could only bite and breath weapon at her until she wounded it enough. And then it was like, I'm a dragon. I'm out of here. And so it flew away, and now she's had to, follow up and chase this dragon across the world. And it's been a reoccurring character. She's had like 3 adventures since then, seeking that black dragon, and she'll be ready to fight that black dragon the next time they meet up.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I've received a correction. There has been a dragon in our Curse of Strahd game, because that was the one week before last, or that was the last time we played, where the paladin was polymorphed into a dragon so he could fly everyone back into the castle. Although, again, in my defense for the statement, I didn't put that dragon in there. The players did. That was a player-created dragon. We're past the hour mark, so we're going to have to get heading home soonish. We did have a question in chat that was more of a general, like, hey, by the way, how would you handle this D&D thing?
Sure.
And if you have a D&D Beyond account, you will have access to this. I'll throw the link in the chat for anyone that wants to read along. The question had to do with the Arc Fae, or Warlock of the Arc Fae, and the Misty Escape ability. Now, whenever we're trying to interpret something, the lawyer in me, and I will admit, I'm almost done with a paralegal certificate. So this is actually how a lot of it gets done. Well, contracts, especially. What is you start with the plain text before you discuss intention.
Right. So raw before interpretation.
Right. And the plain text reads, under reactions, Misty Escape recharges after a short or long rest. In response to taking damage, the Warlock turns invisible and teleports up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. It remains invisible until the start of its next turn, or until it attacks, makes a damage roll, or casts a spell. Now, so that's the invisible part's not the question, but the question was geared around the idea of a Warlock that is falling.
Okay.
Can they stab themselves to trigger Misty Escape and teleport to an unoccupied space?
No. I only say that because it's supposed to. It really is. So I would let them do that, even though it says it's the damage. I would say the stress damage of the fall allows them to go blink and jump out of it, because stabbing yourself is not an escape. You knew that was coming and you did it to yourself, so it technically wouldn't be an escape. I would let them do it, but not with the dagger stab yourself kind of thing. Any and this has been kind of a house rule of mine, anything that is based on an attack or damage that you you are supposed to take that you do to yourself, I usually am a big poo-poo no-no on it, because it's just, I don't know. It's just not right.
It feels counterintuitive. It's the second edition. There was a rule where the number of hit dice of slaying creatures equal the number of skeletons you could summon, but each skeleton had its own hit die. So you could, had 2 hit dice. So you could do things like order your skeleton army off a cliff and then raise up double the number of skeletons.
Oh yeah.
And you could then end up like just repeating this ritual spell and just, so obviously there are sometimes things slip through. We have a few suggestions to allow it. One being, what about the damage of the floor? Or dire roleplay situation, but not to avoid falling. Although I would argue the dire roleplay, the falling can be really traumatic if you fall long enough. So I would say the lawyer in me says that the rule does not specify the damage source.
Right.
And therefore, if we were at a table that was very much the letter of the contract,
right,
we have to allow it. They have to take the damage.
Yeah.
However, I would also be very uncomfortable at that table because that's not how I roll either. But I think the intention, because it's not in response to, okay, let me start that thought over because words are hard. If it had read, in response to being struck by an attack or spell, but before taking damage,
right,
XYZ happens, that would imply that the intention is to fully avoid damage. This is a retreat of some kind, and it's a retreat right now of a monster, which I think follows different rules.
Right.
Because the monsters
target and creature are definitely different.
Yeah. I think because when the question first came in chat, I thought this was tied to a like a PC ability. And this being attached to a monster says to me that the intention is supposed to be when this guy gets hit, they're going to fall back somewhere that you can't see so they can keep doing their thing. And the short and long rest is attached so that you don't use it more than once per combat. But you could assume if this Warlock of the Archfey, which by the way is a CR4 creature, has survived the combat, it could do this again at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it definitely, I don't know. If it was a monster, again, I think, I would let him splat on the ground. If it was a PC, I may go, okay, here's the deal. As your legs are breaking and you're getting ankle hippolytis where your ankles are driven up through your hips, let's say you take half damage and you are able to go poof and do your thing. I don't know. I would give them some options probably as a PC, but as the bad guy, no, you go splat because it's an environmental situation, not an attack situation.
How about you just let them teleport and drop a piano on them? By the way, LB Hack'em Up, thank you so much for coming by. We are always glad to have more people join us at the table, even if we're about to head home from happy hour. My glass is currently emptied, but we are going to be going through our usual wrap up. So thank you so much for bringing your people over here. We will entertain them as best we can before we head out. Those who do not know LB Hack'em Up, she is an amazing content creator, an amazing dungeon master, of which I will take some small credit for having once been the dungeon master over at a table and played some really fun games with. So you can check her stuff out. She's a player often, she's a DM often, and just an amazing, let's be real, just an amazing human being. So even just hanging out with her on stream, totally worth your time. If you only watch one person who produces a mix of video games and D&D content, I'll own it. You should probably watch her. But if you watch two, come here at other times. And that's a throwback to earlier.
I was just gonna say we're the Austin Powers of streaming.
But so before we fully wrap up, the question on the table was, and I'll rethrow the link in the chat. If you have D&D Beyond, you can follow it to get the full stat block. We're debating whether the Archfey can stab themselves to kick in their misty escape. And the current ruling is monsters aren't that smart. Like I envision you've pushed the Archfey off this warlock of the Archfey off a tower, and they're falling, and the dude hired to play it goes, I remember in the contract it said, I'm going to stab myself and kick that in because only the actor really cares what happens,
right?
Because it's a monster. I mean, monsters should care to be realistic. Yes. However, they're there to keep the game going. So while we're finishing our thoughts on that, Gray, what have you got coming up this week?
I have Monster Noir on Thursday over at Indoor Adventures at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. IDM over there. We're playing City of Mists in my warped version of a 1940s noir monster reality where the veil is there and seeing beyond it, people are sometimes zombies or vampires and whatnot. That's on Thursday. Sunday, we're back with Wild Myth, 10-ish Eastern Standard Time on my channel, Graybeard Tavern. And it's been so much fun. The storyline is amazing and the character interactions, great game. If you haven't played it, pick it up on Steam. And then I'm back here on Tuesday to be hanging out with you.
Our weekly happy hour, which is one of the best parts of the week. Is always fun to sit down, have a drink, take some time away from. Well, sometimes it's just good to go someplace that everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
Exactly.
So. Over here at Lantern Noir Presents, because that's where all my stuff ends up. Tomorrow night we are doing, I think, the penultimate episode of Valley of Plenty, which is the twist on a zombie survival game. The characters have discovered that there has been a lottery being held every year in order to push back the clouds and allow enough sunlight into the valley so that their crops would grow.
Oh.
And due to a twist of injustice, some of the spirits after such a lottery did not move on and have now plagued the valley with a curse where they will be beset by zombies, but they will never run out of food.
Huh.
So they'll be well fed through their final demise.
Until they are food.
Yeah. And it was they've just at this point they've gotten that far in the story. I had a great talk with the players after. I'm like, well, have y'all read Shirley Jackson's The Lottery? And everyone went, no. I'm like, okay, here's some required reading. It was inspiration, which is a great short story. I'll never miss a chance to plug. If you didn't have to read it in high school, you should look it up now. Shirley Jackson's The Lottery. It's a great short story. It will give you chills. Even today. It's still relevant today. And that's Wednesday night here at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then my next D&D game will be Curse of Strahd on Sunday at the same time. And somewhere in there, I want to just get some more XCOM 2 playing with chat. Because we did that Sunday night in lieu of D&D, and it was more fun than I'm allowed to have on stream. I do have to go back through my mods because I didn't realize how many clothing mods I have downloaded. And it takes a really long time to make a character. Because I have to find because it does a random collection of stuff. And if I just grab a random rookie, they look terrible. So I have to put them somewhere in something sensible.
The XCOM fashion police are taking you out.
Although, as a general rule, it's still kind of cool looking when you get to do that. So if you've downloaded this as a podcast, thank you so much for the download. Please consider leaving a review on your podcast platform of choice. It helps people find this and other great content. You can also find more information about us on the InverseGenius.com website, where we are a proud partner in the Inverse Genius Network. And if you're still searching the internet for interesting things, you can check out sweetsteam.com, one of our sponsors. And if you use the promo code Steam Noir, you get 5% off your order of specialty steampunk themed chocolates, which is always a good time. So thank you for listening. Graybeard, a parting thought for our podcast peoples. He's pondering.
Yeah, don't be afraid to try DMing. It's always the best to create the world. Just have fun with your friends, and if it didn't work out today, try again tomorrow.
Thanks, you. We'll catch you next time. For everybody that's here on Twitch, thank you for coming by. LB, again, thank you for bringing your people here. We appreciate the generosity to share your community with ours. If you haven't gleaned from it yet, we do a lot of D&D content here, as well as some other games from time to time. And my Kitty K, my daughter, who is 9, is back at her nonstop. Are we going to stream together again soon? So there's that new Kitty Tana game that I'm trying to get her to sit down and do a couch co-op stream with me.
Nice.
Where we can curl up here and we can maybe do a Saturday morning cartoons thing. But aside from that, yeah, I do a lot of tactical RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, and I know exactly where we're going to go. We are going to take all of you amazing people over to check out another streamer who does very similar games, whose name is Sprigleaf. I found his channel because he was doing a lot of Solasta Crown of the Magister. And that is the newer D&D 5.1 computer RPG. And so they were playing Wildermyth last time I was over there. So like we have very similar vibes.
Nice.
So send you somewhere because I'm prying up carpet tack strips. Yes. This will be, it's going to be very zen. I think he's playing Gloomhaven right now. So that should be a good time. Thank you everyone for coming by. Thank you for the new follows. Thank you for everything else. Until the next time we get together, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, do what you have to do to get that advantage on your con save, because we're all hanging out together at Gen Con 2020. Till then.